this together, regardless of where we come from. We have got to have a common culture, or the future, frankly, the future for our children is that we'll finish up like many American cities, completely ghettoised, where different groups don't mix, and that's not what we want.
The manifesto that you're issuing today is your broadest yet. There are other issues involved in it, aren't there? For example, a flat rate of income tax. What's brought that on?
Well, look, you know, I mean, the tax system, particularly under Gordon Brown, has become so massively complicated that virtually nobody understands it. And I'm not just talking about employees, I'm talking about employers as well. This whole series of credits. And the ultimate madness is that we trap people who are living on benefit, we stop them coming off benefit and going to work because they start paying tax at much too low a level. So what we're saying is raise the tax threshold to £11,500, stop people who are earning minimum wage from paying tax, incentivise those on benefit to get off benefit and go to work, and thereafter let's have a massively simplified tax system and a tax system that gives people incentives to go out and work hard and earn more money. And there are wonderful examples in America and in the UK in the 1980s when taxes were cut, and as a result of that tax revenues went up because people stopped avoiding paying tax and people were prepared to work harder. And you know, the Baltic states did this back in the 1990s, and it's been wonderfully successful.
One of the reasons you've been in the news recently is because of an outburst in the EU Parliament against the EU President.
Outburst? Why was it an outburst? Why is it? You know, why is it when somebody can stand up in the European Parliament and throw abuse at me, that's fine because they support the European establishment? When I get up and just tell a few home truths, it's considered an outburst. I reject that. On the world stage. You know, really? You have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. And the question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask is, who are you? I'd never heard of you. Nobody in Europe had ever heard of you. I would like to ask you, President, who voted for you?
You've been fined €3,000 for it, though, haven't you? I know. You won't apologise for it. Are you going to back down now?
I'm not going to be told by the President of the European Parliament that I cannot go as the leader of a group of MEPs where we came second across the entire United Kingdom on June the 4th last year. I'm not going to be told that I can't provide a voice of opposition because it upsets his sensibilities. Now, they can find me all they like. I might finish up having to pay them to turn up. I'm not going to, you know, that doesn't mean I will gratuitously stand up and throw insults around, but if I think there are things that need to be said, I'm going to jolly well go on and say them.
The European Union is still trying to decide what to do about the Greek economy. Germany seems increasingly unwilling to bail Greece out and indeed to bankroll the entire European economy. Do you think that Germany itself is moving towards Euroscepticism?
Well, I think the German people already are becoming very, very much more Eurosceptic. I would defy you to go to Berlin and meet a taxi driver or a bartender that would have voluntarily given up the Deutschmark for the euro. And I think the idea, I mean, German taxpayers have been the biggest contributors to the European Union for some years, but the benefit they've had is they've had a massive trade surplus with the rest of the European Union. The idea now that German taxpayers, having spent 20 years transferring money from the west to the east, should now be asked to start bailing out countries like Greece, and possibly not just bailing them out once, but doing it again and again, and perhaps that would extend to countries like Portugal or Ireland or Spain. I don't think this is politically sustainable in Germany, and I'm looking forward to seeing some proper Eurosceptic voices in German politics starting to get elected in big numbers, and I think it will happen.
Now, the UK's obviously stayed outside the Eurozone.
Hooray, yeah.
And yet we have the biggest economic contraction in this country and also the biggest budget deficit in the entire Union. Do you think that staying out of the Euro has really helped our economy? Well,
look, had we been in the Euro, we would have had interest rates for 7 of the first 10 years that would have been lower than they should have been. We were told by the Europhiles, oh, it'll give us cheap mortgages. Well, what it would have led to is an even worse property rise and bust than we've actually experienced. Because we're outside the Euro, and yes, you're right, the British government has grossly mismanaged our economy, but because of that, sterling has fallen just over 25% on the world's exchanges, giving us at least half a chance. We're in a much better position than Greece is. Greece doesn't just have all its fiscal problems, Greece also is stuck inside a currency that is totally unsuited to it. So, I mean, the first great victory that we secured was in keeping the pound. And you might notice on this rosette that we in 1998 adopted as our party logo, keep the pound, and thank goodness we did.
And you're obviously a renowned Eurosceptic, but do you think that the breakup of the Union would benefit the UK?
Well, I think the UK leaving the Union would benefit the UK. I suspect the breakup of the Union would benefit all the other member states. I think that, I mean, there is something about democracy that if you look back through history, it's been the most wonderful safety valve, the most wonderful mechanism, you know, for stopping people tending to head towards violence, tending to want to disrupt. Because what they say is, I hate the government, I'll get rid of the so-and-sos next time round and vote for somebody else. If you take democracy away, then all you're left with is direct action and possibly violence. So, I mean, I think that Europe as a continent would be much happier if the French were French, the Germans were Germans, the British were British, they had their own democracies, they ran their own economies, and we traded and cooperated together and tried to act as good next-door neighbours. That, to me, is a much better vision of Europe than this idea of centralised institutions and people like Herman Van Rompuy and Baroness Cathy Ashton running our lives.
Mr. Farage, thank you very much.
Thank you.